Today on the Scottcast, I'm going to share my thoughts on being a first-time dad and hopefully learn some of the insights that I have learned as being a first-time parent. So stay tuned and listen here on the Scott Stedman podcast.
A is for apple, B is for butt, C is for cat, but D is for doo-doo, E is for elephant doo-doo, F is for fart, G is for gorilla fart, H is for huge gorilla fart, I is for eyeball, J is for jammies, K is for kid fart, L is for loud and long farts, M is for monkey butt, N is for saying night, night to neat, go at nap time, O is for O, P is for panda, peeing and pooping.
Hello and welcome to the Scott Stedman podcast. Today is October 24th, 2014. It is a beautiful day here in Ohio. It's cold, but it is nice to see the sun shining and the leaves starting to turn color. Usually on Fridays I do my Film for Thought Friday, but I have not had much time to even watch any movies. I've been too busy being a parent. I know I've mentioned earlier that my son was born about a couple months ago. He's 8 weeks right now. So congratulations to me for having a healthy baby that survived 8 weeks. So yeah, it's very exciting. Obviously, I knew that when I would have a kid, it would be a bit different, knowing that my life was going to change, that I just couldn't do whatever I wanted whenever I wanted because I am going to be responsible for somebody else. And I remember my wife got me this book that said, it's basically called Daddy's Pregnant Too, and it basically talks about the role of a father during the wife's pregnancy and even after when the baby is born. And I've been reading that book periodically, and I just thought that it was a very interesting book. I really enjoyed all of it that I was reading. And one of the cool things about it was just preparing you for being a dad. And sometimes you think that, it comes naturally. Once you have a kid, naturally you automatically kind of become a parent and you will do a bang-up job. But what I found out is that most of the time, all the advice that people tell you about children raising and all that jazz is really, in some ways, some of it's helpful, but 80% of the stuff you're told is not very helpful because, each kid has its own circumstances and its own differences. Obviously, a kid who has problems latching on to feed on a mother, not on a man, that would be problems for certain parents and certain mothers where other mothers may not have a problems, or they may have a new set of problems with breastfeeding than latching. So it was very interesting for me to just kind of get in that state of mind. I know one of the things I was really worried about was the whole, and even my wife was worried about it too, was the whole postpartum depression, which seems like, that's always a big thing. And especially me being a counselor, it's just like, okay, what are the signs of postpartum depression? Like, I'm looking this up. Like, what are some ways we can, talk about it? What are some ways we can treat it? Just all these little things here and there. And it was very interesting because at the hospital when we left, the nurses ended up giving my wife a worksheet. And basically, it's a worksheet that you do every week. And it'll say, like, oh, I have weeks where I can, days during the week that I can laugh about things. 1 to 10, I think it was like a 1 to 10 scale. And obviously if that number kept getting lower and lower, that's probably when you needed to call the hospital or needed to talk to somebody about postpartum depression. And luckily my wife hasn't gone through postpartum depression, but one of the things she was going through is just these feelings of helplessness. I mean, obviously you're dealing with a baby that cannot speak normal words. The only way it can communicate is by crying. And that was always a difficult thing to try to take hold. So I remember just, times where there was just crying fits, or times where my wife really needed to get out of the house and she couldn't because I was at work or I was at a meeting and she really needed that escape. During that moment, I just thought, sometimes just being around, even just to take care of the baby while my wife goes and takes a walk, or even just even if she wants to go to the library, or go shopping, or do whatever, even if she's just gone for like 5 minutes so she can have that peace and quiet. Sometimes that's just, a blessing. And I'm glad that I'm able to do that for her. And I know, just experiencing some of the things that she has been experiencing with the adjustments to being a mother, and especially me being adjusting to being a father, you know, it's always good to have two people to kind of, in a way, pass the baby around so one person can kind of get some peace so they just don't go mentally unstable. I know there's some times where, especially when my son's having a crying fit, and it's like we've changed him, we've fed him, uh, we've even changed him out of clothes, we've burped him, and he just seems to be crying, and we don't know. We try to put him down in bed, he won't sleep. We try to put him in his chair, his bouncy chair. We put him in a swing, nothing's working, and there's times where literally I feel overwhelmed. And there's times where I'm just getting frustrated. And it's not necessarily I'm getting frustrated with the kid. I'm just getting frustrated at myself that I don't know what to do to, get the baby to calm down enough so he could go to sleep. And, thinking about those moments, I just have the utmost respect for single parents. Obviously, I've had respect for them before. It wasn't like I didn't respect them. But, just to do all of that, deal with a infant and a newborn all by yourself is hard work, especially if in those rare situations where it's just the father with kids and the mother's not in the picture, just having all of that, trying to adjust and not even being able to have someone just to even pass the kid off to go, to go to, just so you could go to the bathroom or go get something to eat because you just spent up all day just trying to take care of this baby, just trying to get him to sleep, that is hard. That's really hard. So, especially if you can do that and you're a single parent, you're probably the most toughest person, um, you know, toughest person in the world, I guess, because there's no way I could do all of that by myself. I mean, if I had to, I would, but I'm so glad that I have my wife to be able to help out, and I'm sure she's glad that she has me to be able to help out too. So, sometimes with adjustments, especially when it comes to parenthood, just to kind of focus on that, I don't know if it's because I'm a parent now that I'm starting to notice this, or if it's been like this since the dawn of time, or maybe it's only been like this since the dawn of social media. But it seems like there's a lot of parents that just kind of bash other parents when it comes to how they're raising their children or how they're taking care of their kids. I remember before my wife even had our son, she just put something like, "What are some good ways? What are some good parenting tips?" And I remember one of our friends, actually it's a girl that I've worked a numerous amount of years in the camping ministry with. And I remember she put something that kind of worked for her to be able to, it was a good way for her so her kids could get what they need, but then she could also kind of get what she needs too to, focus herself, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, so she could be a good parent. And it was some type, and I can't remember it. It's been a while since that post was posted. It's probably like month 2 of my wife's pregnancy. And I remember my wife had a friend that really just bashed bashed her and just said, "Oh, well, you shouldn't do that to your kids, and that means you're being a horrible mom and all this stuff." And I remember my wife ended up sending a private message to our friend and basically said, "You know what? I'm sorry that you got attacked like that. That was uncalled for and everything else." And she says, "It's all right. Some people don't like it, the method, but, it works for me. So that's why I do it." And I'm like, "Oh, so it's that." But it just seems like now, it just seems like people are just so judgmental when it comes to raising, especially big hot button issues like vaccinations. Some parents want to vaccinate your children, some do not, and yet if you choose to vaccine your children, people are like, "Oh, well, you're going to give your kids this type of diseases, or they're going to have these medical problems later on." And then if you choose not to vaccinate your kids, then you're like, "Oh, well, you're going to cause all these illnesses to come back that we've already vaccinated against." And it's just this round and round carousel of chaos that happens. And my opinion and my thought is, if you're a parent and you're doing the best that you can do to try to raise your kids or take care of the kids the best way you know how, or the best way that you're still learning to know how, then that's good enough for me. Obviously, if you're, taking a stick and you're whipping your kids, then I'm probably going to be like, maybe you should think about different ways of punishment for your kids. But if you're doing the best that you can do for your kids, then, I'm all in support of you. So basically, just to summarize everything, my rambling of everything I said, if you're having troubles adjusting as a new parent, it's okay. There's other people who are there in the boat with you, and especially those who are raising their kids and you're feeling criticism, just ignore them. I know sometimes it's hard you want to throw fire back when fire's being thrown at you. But you know what? If you're doing the best you can, then you have my support. And actually, there's a book that I think it's fairly new. It's actually a book that my wife and I listened to when we were on a road trip, and it does have language, a lot of language in it. So if you're not into listening to harsh language, maybe you could read the book instead of the audio book so you don't have to listen to it. But it's called The S No One Tells You About, and I say S because it's actually the swear word S. But it's called The S That No One Tells You About, and it's basically the first year of parenting that no one really tells you. And it's a very good story. It basically is one woman who writes it, and she talks about her experiences, but then she has other, what she calls MOLS, which are mothers on the front line, or MOFLs, mothers on the front line, who have these similar stories from birth to hospitals to and it's very comical too. Like, there's some things that are absolutely hilarious. Like, I think the author was talking about, "Oh, I can raise a kid because I have this dog that I take care of. It's the same thing, right?" And then she realized, no, it's not the same thing. So it's a really good book. I wish I knew who wrote it. But, it's The S That No One Tells You About. I'm sure if you just do a search for it, you can find the book. Very good book, very funny, and especially if you're just kind of having those down in the dump days with the kid, and you do happen to get the audiobook, just feel free to just, play it and listen to it, and maybe just listen to a chapter, and just enjoy laughing. Sometimes just even having a quick laugh in the midst of the chaos is just a medicine we need to kind of keep our sanity intact. All right, well, that's all I have for today. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to this podcast. Again, I cannot make no promises when I will have the next podcast on, or when I'll do a next Film for Thought Friday. Recently, I just watched Thor: The Dark World, which I know that's been out for a while, but I just got around to watching it, so I'm still processing some of my thoughts. So who knows, maybe you'll have a Film for Thought on Thor. All right, well, I hope you guys are having a great week, and I will talk to you later.
A is for
Bye.
apple, B is for butt, C is for cat butt, D is for doo-doo, E is for elephant doo-doo, F is for fart, G is for gorilla fart, H is for huge gorilla fart, I is for eyeball, J is for jammies, K is for kid fart, L is for loud and long farts, M is for monkey butt, N is for saying night, night to neat, go at nap time, O is for O, P is for panda, peeing and pooping in her potty while Papa plays peekaboo, Q is for Cubert, R is for robotic monkey who's going to take over the world, S is for stinky, T is for turd, U is for V is for flying V, W is for wee wee, X exactamundo, Y is for